Hey guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. Today we continue with Hidden Gem series, game number 3. Before we move with this amazing game and fascinating story behind this game, I would like to remind you, if you enjoy my work, you learn a lot from my videos, please don't forget to subscribe, like, hit notification button and leave the comments. It helps me with YouTube algorithms. You know how it works. Now, let's move to the game itself. So the game has been played in 2002 during Bil Chess Festival, traditional chess festival, between Vladislav Tkachev, in Russian we pronounce his name Tkachov, against legendary Viktor Korchnoi. So it was a close tournament of 6 strong grandmasters. So besides these two guys, there were also Israeli grandmaster Ilya Smirin, Russian grandmaster Alexei Dreev, local grandmaster Yannick Pelletier, and Spanish grandmaster Vallejo Pons. Now, for this game, I think I don't need any introduction of Viktor Korchnoi, legendary player who played 2 World Championship matches against Anatoly Karpov and played until the age, I don't know, 80. I don't remember exactly his age when he stopped playing, but he was a really very interesting character in chess. Now, meanwhile, let's talk about player who won this game, Vladislav Tkachev, my good friend. I believe that this new generation, not everyone familiar with his name, and it's understandable because he has been inactive for many years, mostly doing coaching work. But it happened that we both were born in Kazakhstan, but it's interesting that in Kazakhstan I didn't know him in person. He was 3-4 years older than me, and first time I met him actually was during Bil Festival, I think in 1996, if I'm not mistaken, and since then we are very good friends. We can talk with him about any chess topic. He's really like a walking encyclopedia. Now, talking about his chess career, he almost reached 2700 rating back in 2001, so officially his peak rating 2676 back in 2001, 23 years ago. Imagine with the rating inflation, it would be probably over 2700 nowadays. Was a very strong positional player, represented national team of France. By the way, in this game he was represented French Federation, played for national team of France for many years. Also famous for his coaching job. He was working with Peter Leko, Alexander Grishuk. Currently he's working with Kazakhstan national team, male national team. Also have players all around, have students all around the world, have a incredible opening knowledge. Now, it's what happened in this before this game. It was really amazing story. So I played the same event. So I played open, he played in the main event, close tournament. And one of the nights, like actually early in the morning, 5 a.m., my phone rings in my room. I'm sleeping, obviously. And I wake up, I answer, and it was Vlad. So he's, Boris, I need your help. So I thought it's a joke, like 5 a.m., Vlad, why are you calling me at 5 a.m.? Well, something happened, I really need your help. So I thought, well, that's something serious. He wouldn't call me at 5 a.m. So I go down one floor. I think I took elevator. I go out of the elevator, approaching his room, and I notice there is a blood path to his room. So the door is open. I go to his room, get into his room, and he's sitting on the bed, and it was a horrific picture. So basically, one eye, it's a total mess. It does not exist. I was totally shocked. So what happened? I knew that he went out evening before. He met one of his friends that he hadn't seen for many years, and something happened in the restaurant. There was some brawl, and somebody hit him, and it was probably a professional boxer or something like that, but the consequences were not very good for him. So how I can help? He asked me to call the organizer, explain the situation, and ask for the help. So fortunately, I knew one of the organizers, Olivier Brizacher. He was actually later a good friend of mine. it's happened that he was on the way to his home to Geneva, so he was on the train and he was shocked. He said, well, you know, I cannot come unfortunately, but I'll send somebody. So organizers, somebody arrived, took him to the hospital, so they were able to treat his eye and do some cosmetics, but basically he couldn't see with one eye, that's for sure. So the same day he couldn't play, so draw was agreed with Ilya Smirin, but next day he had to play, and that was the game that he played against Viktor Korchnoi. Obviously, I was very curious how you can play basically when you have only one eye, seeing the board, how it works. And guys, you will see, it's transpired that you can play pretty well. So it was an incredible game that I would like to show you. Now, the game started with a move d4, knight f6, c4, e6, knight f3, so this is Vlad's choice, bishop b4, so-called Bogo Indian. You probably know that there is bishop d2 and knight d2, two major moves. Vlad played bishop d2, and now it's a crossroad for black. Black can play c5, a5, capture on d2, but there is this move queen e7 that it's like kind of like old-fashioned line. You can find probably thousands of games here. Now, Vlad was well known, and we had some similarity in our opening repertoire. He liked the position with the light square bishop fianchetto, so here he played g3, which is considered a top choice for white. g3, knight c6, and now very important move, knight c3, that actually I recommended in my Grandmaster repertoire books. White repertoire, first d4, publishing quality, chess publishing house. Why we need knight c3? If you play bishop g2, black idea actually to capture on d2 and take advantage of the fact that queen d2, which would be the most desirable setup for white, followed by knight c3, runs into knight e4 tempo. When we move the queen, there comes queen before check. The problem here that knight d2 now runs into knight d2, and unfortunately for white, any recapture leads to loss of pawn. So knight d2 obviously runs into knight d4, queen d2 would be a better choice, but then queen c4, we lost the pawn. There is definitely some compensation still, but it's considered to be not a desirable line for black. So therefore, in this position, after the move bishop d2, knight d2 has to be played, black plays d6, followed by 5, we get some close type of positions, and it's really helpful for black that black was able to trade a pair of dark square bishops, so kind of like a better version than King's Indian. But it's a theoretical line that probably hundreds of thousands of games. Now, therefore, we need knight c3. For those who are interested in theory of this line, highly recommend it, and of course, you can check my book. Now, bishop takes c3, so one of the main responses from black, bishop takes c3, knight e4. Obviously, white cannot allow knight c3, bc3, so rook c1, another move queen c2, but rook c1 is the main move, castle, bishop g2, normal development, d6, and now very important move that actually, I think my Grandmaster repertoire, I saw this game, I was under impression from this game, so then I analyzed this line. It's very important to start with d5. Why we need d5 right now? Because if we play castle, the most natural move, black will respond with knight c3, rook c3, and e5. After d5, knight b8 comes, still space advantage for white, no questions about that, but black is pretty comfortable because two minor pieces have been traded. Now a5, knight a6, f5, e4 counterplay, so black is doing pretty well here. After d5, we see where the knight retreats, like obviously ed5, cd5, it's not a good idea, pawn structure wise. Now after knight b4, we already take on e6, and now this pawn structure is very favorable for white. For example, f e6 castle, the main line. Now knight d8 played in this game, and now we don't take. We don't take because d6 runs into knight e6, and that's quite an interesting position for black. f5 comes, bishop d7, maybe knight 6 to c5, so that's a pretty reasonable play. So now we leave knight on d8, and we just play castle. e5, very logical. Now, there is an opportunity to keep bishop pair, but since the position, the pawn structure is close, it's not so significant here, and it's considered that knight d2 is a better move. Now, knight d2 would be dubious, queen d2, that's clearly better for white, so black has to take knight c3, rook c3, and if you were wondering what happens with this knight on d8, f5 comes and knight goes to f7, so that's well known. Guys, I would like you to pause the video here and to think what might be the idea for white, how white can develop his play here. It's very important to play c5 without wasting time for before. It would be waste of time since c5 is working, and it works because if black captures dc5, we can attack this pawn. I think the most precise move, knight b3, queen c2 is also possible, and black cannot play b6. You can pause quickly the video and answer why not b6, and I think it's pretty easy. After d6, we win rook on a8. So c5, without wasting time for before, we'll need maybe b file for other purposes. Knight f7, very logical follow-up, and Vlad in this game played queen b3, normal move. I had a great time in this variation. If I'm not mistaken, in general, after knight c3, I scored close to 100%. Now, here I found two of my old games. I started with cd6. I don't think it's very significant. And then after dc5, I played queen b3, the same move like Vlad played in the game. So one game, so two easy wins. One game featured rook b8, rook c1. So we control the file, bishop d7, black tries to fight with the c file, so rook c8. So now protecting the pawn, obviously c1 is hanging, and very strong move rook c3, which kind of like secures advantage. Now black couldn't find anything better than queen d8, and after rook b7 I just won pawn and then easily won the game. So that was game against Carlson from 2012. Now another game, instead of rook b8, featured queen g5. Hardly a good idea. I just played f4 with tempo. Queen h5. Pawn on e2 is hanging, but I have a very, very convenient move, knight f3. Queen h6. e3. Strengthening pawn on f4. Queen f6. Rook c1. Rook c7. g5. Trying to create something. And then very nice move, queen c3. And black just in big trouble. White is in full control of the position. So that was surprisingly a very easy win against Russian Grandmaster Nikolai Vlasov, Moscow 2003. Still under impression of this game that I show you today, which has been played in 2002. Now, let's move back to the game between Tkachev and Korchnoi. So we got here move queen b3 right away, and it's possible because still dc5 runs into rook c1, and we know the drill that there is no b6. We play d6 tactically and bishop a8 on the next move, winning material. Now, definitely Korchnoi played much better than in my games, my opponents in my game, so he played b6. He's trying to solve the problem of this bishop. Now, c takes d6, so definitely we should go with cd6 here, opening up c file, cd6, and now probably rook fc1 is another option, but queen a3 is very nice move, prevents bishop a6, in some way prophylaxis. Also, queen on a3 probably better place than on b3, keep an eye on d6. a5, so Victor wants still to get bishop on a6, but there is price. Now b6 pawn is vulnerable. Rook fc1, bishop a6. Now rook c7 with tempo, why not? Queen f6, and Vlad played a very precise move e3 in this position. What is interesting, I found a game where white played knight c4, but black actually got a nice play here after knight c4, trading on c4, bishop c4, rook c4, b5, rook c2, e4 with nice position for black, sufficient counterplay. This game actually played in 2003, 1 year after this game, between legendary Lajos Portish and Luke Winans, 2003. So actually ended in a draw. So I think knight c4 is clear in accuracy. White has to go e3. e4, very consistent. Knight goes to e5, what to do in this position. I would suggest that you pause the video, think for a few minutes, and come up with an idea for white. Now, if you found the right plan, which is knight b3, so e5 didn't come for free for black, so knight e5 is very nice idea, but on the other hand, d4 square weakened, and that's a nice outpost for white knight. So, very important that rook c6 looks somewhat attractive, so why not to start grabbing some material, but black has b5. So there is idea b4 followed by knight e5, and the point obviously that queen a5 runs into bishop b7. So this position is not so clear. Now way stronger, just send knight to d4 and it would be a terrific outpost for our knight. Knight e5, queen e5, so knight e5, knight d4 is great for us, so queen e5. Now it appears that our pawn on d5 is under attack and we cannot really play rook d1, it's too passive. So Vlad continued with knight d4, and he had some amazing positional idea behind pawn sacrifice, which comes on the next move. So here, guys, I would suggest that you pause the video. Think carefully here, spend some time. Can you see a positional solution here? A terrific move for white, which basically decided the game. If you found f4, that means you're a very good player. So white takes advantage of the fact that ef3 runs into bishop f3 and black loses exchange without compensation. So pawn stays on f4 and kills black knight on f7. And kills until the end of the game. So, and we have this rule in chess. If you have one bad piece, there is a good chance that the whole position is bad. So this is another example which kind of like proves this rule. So how to continue here? Korchnoi defends with knight h6. Now I highlighted my queen on a3 that protects the pawn on a3. That means we are not really worried about knight g4, so we can continue maybe with our play. Although h3 was a possible move, but Vlad decided, okay, let's go rook c6, time to grab some material, let's attack the pawns, b6 and d6. Now, black has a defense, rook c8, so there is a tactical defense here. It appears that we cannot win the pawn after rook c8, rook d6, because suddenly we get mated. King f2, knight g4. So have to be always careful. And but there is a very nice move, also well calculated by Vlad. He played queen c3. Now rook c7, g7 pawn obviously invites some tactics. There is a discovery with the knight. Now black cannot play something without defending and against this idea, so rook f7 was played. Now very important that we don't trade rooks here. Rook c6. We need to keep the rook because at some point we need to collect b6 d6 pawns and start winning material. Now on the other hand, second pawn sacrifice, queen a2 comes, and now we don't have time to take on b6 or d6 in view of queen b1 check. Now this time h3 comes and stops knight g4 idea. Queen b1 check. Now where you would go with the king? I hope you don't consider seriously queen c1, exchanging queens and endgame 2 pawns down. So obviously we move the king. King f2 or king h2. What's the best move? Now what is interesting that even in such a position, and to be honest, since move f4 played, objectively speaking, if you run the computer, white is winning. White has a winning advantage. But I don't think it's that obvious during the game. Now, for example, in this position, we are still 2 pawns down. So we have to pay attention to our opponent's resources. Very, very important. Now, when I was showing this game to my students, the vast majority suggested king h2. Optically, looks safe, looks great, why not? But it appears that Korchnoi, and he was very famous for this kind of tricks. He prepared some nasty resource here, rook f6, and suddenly there is a threat, knight g4 followed by rook h6, and actually black is not worse here. Now the idea, for example, we play rook b6, knight g4, a4, rook h6, and it's not just check, it's mate, because we play rook h3, king h3, and queen h1. So white, after rook f6, has to play something like g4, if the best move in this position, and fg4 and take on b6, and it's very unclear. It's double edge. We don't need anything double edge. It's already, it should be very clear advantage for us. So Vlad is very accurate here. He found this idea. He played king f2. Now black responded with queen d3. Now, very interesting, I don't remember exactly, but Korchnoi offered a draw either after queen b1 or maybe right now, after queen d3. And most probably after queen d3, he offered draw, but it appeared that he resigned after the next move. Can you find the move that forced black to resign? Please pause the video and try to find this interesting solution. Now, obviously, we don't want to trade queens, queen c1, but it's crucial to see that actually queen is trapped. It's just really remarkable how this position, despite 2 pawns down, is just overwhelmingly better for white. So rook c3 is the threat, and there are no squares. The only idea I can think about that black prepares some square to escape is bishop b7 with idea queen a6, but finally bishop f1 comes, and queen is still trapped. So it happened that after this after move queen c1, Korchnoi resigned. It was definitely a bit embarrassing for him that he offered draw after queen d3 and resigned on the next move. You know, for the Grandmaster, it's a bit strange, but I know that he was also famous for saying some nasty things after unfortunate results. I experienced this in person. After this game, there were some nasty things were said, like in conversation with other players, not directly to Vlad, but it's well known. He was old, and everyone kind of like excused him for this strange behavior a little bit. And well, that's the game. It was, in my opinion, there are no like tactical shots. There are no like brilliant tactical sacrifices. Well, it's actually, there are like 2 pawns down. It's rather positional, but I believe it's incredible positional masterpiece. I remember how this game impressed me tremendously. Now, it's appeared that after this game, you know, in chess, it's very interesting. When there is some interesting story, some scandal, it brings attention of mainstream media. So the people heard that, like, well, there are some rumors about something happened with one of the players, and suddenly newspapers from major Swiss cities came to interview him, from Zurich, Geneva, and so on. He became a celebrity. I still remember his big picture on one of the main pages of one of the biggest newspapers in Switzerland. So you know, I'm pretty sure he didn't feel very well physically, like just because one eye just was kind of like off, but he had a great time. He really enjoyed great time, giving an interview and being in some kind of like celebrity status. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this story. It's really great memories from the years that I was active. You know, Tkachi was active as a chess player, so we had a great times in Bill usually, and hopefully you learn a lot from this game, from this positional masterpiece. Like maybe it gave you some ideas for how to play against this famous Bogo Indian variation, and I'll see you on my next videos. Thanks for watching.